Philip Enriquez here on a Thursday night. After watching the newest rendition of Thursday Night Football, where we saw the Denver Broncos fall to the San Diego Chargers 21-13 behind a very efficient performance by Philip Rivers, who threw for 178 yards and a touchdown. And Melvin Gordon also had a decent game on the ground with 94 yards on 27 carries. As predicted earlier in the week on our Thursday Night Football preview, I suggested that Denver would have a hard time with the San Diego Chargers this week because they would be without their head coach Gary Kubiak, and it showed. Their game plan was off. This did not look like the Denver Broncos that we're used to seeing on the field every weekend. You can look at the stat line for Trevor Siemian and you can see where it all went wrong. He had 230 yards and a touchdown, but here's the stat where you know this was not the game plan, and that's 50 attempts. Anytime Trevor Siemian's putting the ball in the air 50 times in a game, that spells trouble for the Denver Broncos, and ultimately that's why they fall to the San Diego Chargers. Again, score was 21-13. Now it's time to talk about the big Sunday night football matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Dallas will be traveling to Lambeau Field, where they're going to take their number one ranked rushing offense against Green Bay's number one ranked rushing defense. There's a little known fact. You know, everybody wants to keep the focus on the Green Bay offense with the struggles of Aaron Rodgers and the struggling with the play calling with Coach Mike McCarthy. Also, you know, everybody wants to talk about all the injuries on offense that they have at the running back position. Eddie Lacy has a bad ankle, and we don't know if Starks is even going to play. He hasn't participated in practice at all this week. But let's go back to that matchup between the running game. So Green Bay comes in with the number one ranked rushing defense, having only allowed, get this guys, 171 yards total this season and merely one touchdown. They go in allowing 42.8 yards per game. They're keeping their opponents to less than 50 yards per game on the ground. Let's look at the Dallas stats. Dallas comes in as the number one ranked rushing offense. Now, they have amassed 776 yards and 11 touchdowns this season. That comes out to 155.2 yards per game. So something's got to give. But here is the proof in the pudding, guys. It's the sample size. You see, Green Bay may have the stats that point to them having a great rushing defense, while Dallas has the stats that point to them having a great rushing offense, and you think, okay, there you go. That's going to cancel each other out. But here's where I beg to differ. If we look deep into it, let's look at the sample size. And the sample size is this. Green Bay has only defended 86 rushing attempts, which is a smaller sample size than the 169 rushing attempts that the Dallas Cowboys have on offense. So when you look at that, there's more validity in the stats with the Dallas Cowboys than the Green Bay Packers. There's a bigger sample size, and that makes me feel very confident that the Cowboys will continue their success running the ball against the Green Bay Packers this Sunday. Another thing is, when you look back at the game they played back in December of 2015, you know, those Matt Castle starts, Dallas rushed for 171 yards on 20 attempts. That's 8.6 yards per rush average, and that was with Darren McFadden and Robert Turbin. What you gonna do, Green Bay, when you have to go up against Zeke Elliott and Alfred Morris? I mean, we could probably double this run total. So Green Bay's gonna have their hands full with the Dallas rushing attack, believe me. Now, the reason why we lost that game was the passing game was terrible. I believe Matt Castle threw for under 100 yards. And I believe his yards per pass was something abysmal, like 3.2 yards per pass. And he threw, of course, some picks to the defense. I mean, it was terrible. I don't even want to get into it. But shifting the focus back to this upcoming game, let's talk a little bit about the Green Bay offense. And I always feared the Green Bay offense. Any time you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, you're going to have your hands full on defense, and the Cowboys will have their hands full on defense definitely this Sunday. But I have a little confidence because the running game isn't looking too well going into this game. Starting running back Eddie Lacy, he has an ankle sprain, and he has been limited in practice both Wednesday and Thursday. The Green Bay Packers only carry two running backs on their roster, and as far as I've seen, they have not made any roster moves to call up any running backs. So they're going to have 2 running backs that are injured. So I don't think they're going to be able to rely on the run, which I believe is the Achilles heel of the Dallas defense. So if they want to pass 50 times a game, I think the Dallas Cowboys will be ready. Their secondary has been playing better. Their pass rush looked good last week. I think this game is definitely pointing to a Dallas win. Last year, Eddie Lacy gave the Cowboys fits. I believe he ran for 124 yards and a touchdown. So Dallas definitely has to stop the run. And I believe, as bad as the Cowboys were playing last year, it was 14-7 going into the fourth quarter. I may have to check that, but I know that the stats in that game don't reflect the way the game was played. That was a close game going into the fourth. With all that being said, it's prediction time for Sunday's game. I'm going to go with Dallas 26, Green Bay 24, and I'll check back with you next week and see how I did.